Aloha and welcome to Java. Thank you all for joining me. This is for Monday, February 26, 2024. Before starting into this, I want to say thank you to all of you that left such kind words yesterday. It's really quite amazing to me. It helped me so much, and you guys are such a blessing. So thank you all for that. So with that, let's get right into the markets. Don't want to take up too much of your time. We'll start with our favorite risk indicator, the MMRI. It's right below 274 right now, but more importantly, still kind of hovering in the same range, so it's relatively stable. We've got a lot of news coming out this week, but today, relatively muted, I expect. We're only expecting home sales. So currently, the 10-year yield and relative strength of the dollar still on the high level at 424.8. It's below the levels that the market really hates. So as long as those don't rise too rapidly, won't put too much pressure on stocks, which are mixed at the moment. We've got futures in the red. So could be a continuance, a little bit more bearish. It is a mixed sentiment right now. They're watching for inflation data, which really the big one is going to be the PCE coming out on Thursday. But going with that, we've got today new home sales coming out at 10 a.m. And other than that, unless they have Fed speakers coming out, I don't expect a lot of larger market movers. So we've got earnings coming out today. So I was saying we're going to be watching Domino's and a couple of these others for basically retail spending. iRobot can be another indicator of that. Healthcare, and then Zoom also for the work from home, which is really decreasing rapidly. So I have a quick story I want to tell you. As I grew up near the ocean, was always told never turn your back on the ocean because it's completely unpredictable and can take you over in an instant. So it's always taught that. And we have right now a literal tidal wave of debt incoming. So I always want to keep that in the forefront because as soon as that breaks, it could get very nasty. It's not just a large wave, we've got a massive tidal wave. So with that, let's take a quick look at the banks, what's going on. So we have the Nikkei, which is basically the Asian stock exchanges are reacting a little differently, and that's because there's central banks and their currencies. And what they are showing as their stock markets are increasing and going down, showing their demand and then also their inflation. So, right now, with our stock market rising so rapidly, for the most part, I think it's not so much that all of these companies are tremendously more valuable or producing so much more, but rather they're pricing in longer term inflation because the dollar is going to be eventually worth quite a bit less. So, with this, talking about the dollar holding firm for now because they're not cutting rates yet with everything that's coming out. So, we are expecting that PCE, as I was saying, on Thursday, and that's what everybody is pretty much looking forward to. So, when everybody moves at the same time, that's when you get the high volatility. So, when I talk about the banking just a little bit, so getting more stories, and I'm kind of glad. This shows that I think that I got this one right, and that's about the funds dropping bets as well, that a stronger euro and the European Central Bank will be seen cutting prior to the Federal Reserve. So we were talking about this before, and it's mostly because if they don't cut prior to the Fed with the reserve currency and what's going on with the instabilities in the markets and the inflation, they would decimate the euro as far as value. So I'm kind of glad they're in agreement with that. So we've got private credit and bank competition for deals posing risks. The Fed doesn't like this. So private credit lending, basically it's because they can't control it. And it's kind of like a shadow lake because they don't have full transparency. So they know 100%, like when they are issuing their debt and they're playing these games with short term capital, kind of liquefying the markets, if you will, making sure that money is available to these banks. Private credit is out of their control and it's basically competition. And they don't like that because they just kind of lose it. It's kind of like mobsters. They don't want anybody horning in on their business, so to speak. So with Credit Suisse, we know what happened with the bank when they had the crash. We've got Ant Group. So this is a large Chinese company. Basically, they're ahead of a lot of the major, like Baba, Sales, other companies that you're familiar with, outbidding Citadel for Credit Suisse China unit. So with this, they get all of the assets. So there's a lot underlying here as well. Now that the debt has been cleaned up, so to speak, a lot of the garbage loans reprocessed for pennies on the dollar, they see the value in that, as well as being able to liquefy some of their systems. So going forward, a couple of commodities. We've got oil extending losses. So oil is looking quite a bit weaker here. I think they've got a little more weakness to go longer term. Still bullish. They're talking about demand dropping and also with the supply. So I'm seeing liquid natural gas seems to be a little stronger at the moment, but long term they will need this energy. I do think it's going to recover, although prior to that, still some weakness. So we've got Alcoa. This is in aluminum. That's also been a large trade lately, not just with these partners, but also with Iran. So this is talking about American company Alcoa looking to purchase a company out of Australia for $2.2 billion. So we'll be watching that. Okay, so we've got two conflicting stories here. As always, we've got what recession professional forecasters raising their expectations for the economy in 2024. Everything's wonderful. We've got tons of jobs and still people spending in retail. This is the mainstream media. It's a complete lie as far as the real economy and a bunch of garbage. If you're new here, stick with us and you'll figure out why. You have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I always try to answer. So we've got Toyota. This is real life. Extending shutdown of 2 production lines after emission test irregularities. So just talking about yesterday, Ford shut down one of their line productions. So in reality, and I spoke with a car dealer locally, so I don't know if this, he was talking about this being nationwide. However, the lack of sales for automobiles, in particular with the new space, is causing a backlog. So they're no longer ordering from the factories because they can't sell the vehicles that they've got on their lots. So coincidentally, now they don't want to panic the public or let them know what's really going on. So they've come up with this, both of them, these quote unquote irregularities, very vague, but reasons to halt production and bringing them out. And they're talking about that they will make a decision whether to reopen on Monday, March 4th. So, visiting with that time span, we've also got the short term lending programs to the banks. Halt on March 11th. They will have extensions, so that's not a hard date for the market, but it's kind of a soft date, definitely one to pay attention to. But that's when things will begin to unwind. I do agree with one of the viewers had said that we're going to keep this floating until the selection cycle, the end of November, and I agree with that. However, it's going to get much more difficult for them to hide what's really going on. So with that, we've got the economy is basically they're trying to deal with this the best that they can. We've got Germany, they're lacking in all of their production, basically manufacturing, and they're turning to the war. So war boosting German investor interest in the defense sector. So basically turning to making weapons, machines, that type of thing. And we've got London is building insect farms, and they're talking about using this for animal feed because it's high protein. And they've got a couple of key sentences in here talking about how it can be more broadly applied. And then it's got larger applications, meaning they want to feed us bugs later. That's fly larvae. Anyway, developing in our quiet news, just want to bring this up. We've got French farmers still protesting. These are European farmers in Brussels. This is live as of this morning, meaning probably still nighttime in the East Coast would be your time. We've got India farmers still protesting and the USA truckers still protesting. They've got New York, the governor threatening to take their assets from their banks and other action if they don't continue to deliver to New York. So they've got them in quite the bind. And I like seeing that there are alternatives that the people can speak and act. So just a couple of lava updates. And with this, I just want to show I've still got a warning going on against my channel. So I do have to be careful what I say. Let you read this about the cough that had happened. But they're talking about labs uniting to boost genomic surveillance globally. So this is your DNA. They're talking about keeping tracking on this. They're going to use several methods that they've got within this. So it's something else they've been developing quietly in the background. Tie this to your identity. You can't really change your DNA. So I think that's very much something to watch. And then the last thing to bring up, everybody's heard in the news, there was another weather balloon. So I just like how they put this story. A small, non-threatening balloon intercepted over Utah from NORAD, fighter pilots sent to investigate, determined it's non-maneuverable and did not present a threat to national security. So I couldn't help but reading this, get a quote from one of my favorite movies of all time. And it goes something like, perhaps it's just fishermen going for a sail at night in eel-infested waters. And if you know what movie that's from, that's awesome because I love it. Okay, so with that, that's all I got for you at the moment. Please like if you haven't already. And until I see you again, my friends, stay free.